Hello and welcome into the newest episode of Pat's Latest. I'm your host, Mike Gambardella. The Super Bowl is over. The debate continues, but the Eagles are champions. The Chiefs and Patrick Mahomes come up short in their quest for a three-peat, and we dive into not only the Dynasty debate, but perhaps the GOAT debate, and can we put that to bed? Before we jump into everything, please go down and subscribe to our channel. Leave some comments in there and what you think is actually the answer to these questions, and give us a few likes and check out our older videos as well. We'll jump right into it and look at what is the top dynasty, and I think it's fairly simple now, is to say the Chiefs haven't gotten there quite yet. They had the opportunity to do something that was unprecedented, especially in the Super Bowl era, all due respect to the Green Bay Packers and winning one NFL championship before their two Super Bowl championships. But the Patriots now continue to have that top moniker. Again, this is fairly subjective. We can't say that it is the direct answer that we're all looking for, but the Chiefs had a chance to really open that debate and open the floodgates, and the Eagles made sure that that was not the case. A dominating performance by the defensive line, shutting down Patrick Mahomes, and the Chiefs, they did not blitz a single time in their Super Bowl victory and still absolutely steamrolled out to that victory. The Chiefs able to put together some garbage time stats and touchdowns in there, but it really was Eagles door to door and surprising. I will admit that I'm fairly shocked that it was the outcome. The Chiefs again had a season where, an impressive 15-2 record, had games that they kind of pieced together, but you kind of assume that they were just waiting for this moment. And through the playoffs, it looked like that was true, that they kind of slow played things. They were able to come away with victories, by the skin of their teeth, but because they could, because they are a good team, and they still are. It just showed that you can cover up a lot of deficiencies, and the offensive line was one of them. Again, Tom Brady said on the broadcast at a certain point that the reason that the Chiefs lost a Super Bowl prior to this one was because of its offensive line, and that the Buccaneers were able to bring such pressure and disrupt everything that they wanted to do. And the front four of the Eagles, I know that Jalen Hurts was named the MVP. I think that front four probably should have been the MVP. You can't give it to multiple people, and it's a quarterback league. We know this. But again, to go quickly back to this debate that we got into, I was ready to say, look, let's have this debate. Now it gets put on the back burner. It's not there. The three-peat is not a thing. There's still Super Bowls to be won by Patrick Mahomes and the Chiefs. Again, they'll be able to retool and run it back. And again, Tom Brady again said on the broadcast, you win a Super Bowl or you get there and you go back and you start back at zero. You don't get any head start or a reward for getting there or winning. It's going to be back to square one for the Chiefs. And it means that the Patriots will keep that moniker at least for another few years. Looking at Tom Brady as well, a couple questions around what is next for TB12. He had some interesting, we'll call it a pathway in the broadcast career that he is now finding himself in. Had that year to prepare, had mixed results at the start of it. I think he would be first to admit that he wasn't the greatest at the start, but he did progress as the season went on. And in the Super Bowl, I thought he did a great job. And he finally got back to what a lot of people were looking for, was for him to be open and honest with the audience, talk about the losses to the Giants in the Super Bowl and what he felt. And he finally kind of opened the doors to that, and I thought had his best game as a commentator. Now, whether he's able to continue that job, if he does, he's under contract and can. Could his role with the Raiders as an owner be more appealing to him? If it is, it reopens the door for Greg Olson, the commentator and former Bears tight end, University of Miami, great all-around player, and even better commentator, who showed that he has the ability to be one of the top color commentators in the game, and move him back into that spot. We'll see what Brady ends up doing. What is not up for debate is that GOAT status. And we've seen it all over social media as soon as the Super Bowl ended that, does anybody want to ask who the GOAT is anymore? Because unfortunately, when the Chiefs lose and Patrick Mahomes did not have a great game until we talked about that garbage time performance, Tom Brady was 7-3 in the Super Bowl. He walked off in the fourth quarter with the lead in all 10 games. Patrick Mahomes now 3-2 in Super Bowl. His two losses are now by a combined 40 points. There's differences here. Looking also a step further, quarterbacks who have won 3+ Super Bowls, we're looking at 5 different players: Joe Montana, Troy Aikman, Tom Brady, Terry Bradshaw, and Patrick Mahomes. Joe Montana, one of the greatest or the GOAT until Tom Brady, threw 11 touchdown passes and 0 interceptions in those 3 titles. Troy Aikman, 5 touchdowns to 1. Terry Bradshaw, 9-4. Patrick Mahomes, 9-7. The most turnovers, 7 interceptions already in these Super Bowls. Again, got there, all praise, all due. But if we're going to debate GOAT, let's get into it. 7 turnovers more than any of those 5 with 3+ titles. Now the 2 losses coming by a lot. That's 7 turnovers. Tom Brady only had 6 in all the Super Bowls that he got to. And while we're talking about Joe Montana at the top with 11 touchdowns, Tom Brady had 21 touchdowns. Not much of a debate. So even though it might not be one, it'll continue to rage on. We're going to see it all over social media. We'll continue to reference and bring up some of these things that might push you one way or another. You're here. We kind of know why. We know it's going to be Brady first. Drake May would even side with you. But for at least tonight, Tom Brady gets to be the talk of the town. Congrats to the Eagles, and we'll move on. And we quickly move on to what the Patriots will be doing. They put up a 2025 graphic on social media on their X account. As soon as the Super Bowl ended, they want to roll it in. Mike Vrabel's at the center of that. Drake May obviously front and center, but who will be catching passes from Drake May? We'll continue to see what's out there. The big one is 49er star wide receiver, a 29-year-old, 6 years in the league. Deebo Samuel has announced he will be looking for a trade. His agent has now been given approval to do that. There will be many different suitors out there for him. The big question is, what are the packages that will be out there and could get this done? Could they get away with a 3rd-round pick for Deebo Samuel? Could you do a 4th and a 5th combined? Do you need to bump up to a 2nd-round pick if a lot of other teams are offering the same? And will Deebo start to nix on certain teams because he wants a better shot potentially at a playoff scenario? Been to a couple Super Bowls, has come up short. Know that will probably be at the top of his list. But could the Patriots pull a trigger for someone like this? Again, having another weapon for Josh McDaniels' offense and be able to get him into space and be a check down option and potentially a field stretcher for Drake May. But we know that Deebo Samuel is a yak guy, yards after catch. Just get the ball in his hands. He's able to do that. He's coming off one of his worst seasons. Injury plays a factor, as well as the offensive line and quarterback play as well. Do the Patriots give up a lot to make this happen? Again, I think it depends on what happens with T. Higgins, Chris Godwin, the top of the free agent class, Cooper Kupp. There's a lot of other dominoes that potentially could fall before the Patriots make a decision on someone like Deebo Samuel, but it is another top flight wide receiver that could be an option for the Patriots when all is said and done. Again, looking at that trade compensation, you're looking at least a 1/3, perhaps, or more or less, depending upon what the compensation packages from other teams around are actually looking for. When we talk about that offense and what he could bring to it, Robert Kraft actually commented on what the Patriots offense and really the structure of how the coaching staff has come together. Kraft quickly went to Mike Vrabel. He had Gerard Mayo kind of in that succession plan to come in after Bill Belichick. Did not work out like he wanted and quickly pivoted. Again, I think Robert Kraft should be commended that kind of saw that this isn't how I wanted to continue and proceed. So let's unfortunately pull the plug and move forward with Mike Vrabel. But knew they had that question mark about the offensive coordinator. And when Chad Graff actually caught up with Robert Kraft when he was in New Orleans this past week, he had some comments about the hiring of Josh McDaniels. And I'd like to read this for you. He said, when we interviewed Mike and asked who he might be interested in bringing on, without pause, one of his first to bring on was Josh McDaniels. He thought it would be something that would be very special for Drake May. So already giving up that Vrabel was in the boat to bring in McDaniels because he saw a good pairing for Drake May. That might be a little surprising because he's worked with Tom Brady previously, pocket quarterbacks. Now he's able to do something a little bit different because Drake May does possess that scrambling ability. He went on to say that their experience and chemistry together is very positive. That's in reference to Vrabel and McDaniels. And he said that he thought was a good development. Every way that you look at it, he thought it was a win-win. He also remarked that it was Vrabel's decision. This did not come from Kraft. It was Vrabel's decision to bring in Josh McDaniels. Not easy when a head coach is deciding, especially a new head coach, deciding to bring on a previous head coach and one that has been the offensive coordinators before. Remarked that Josh was very excited, obviously, and he wanted to hope to get the fruits, the potential positives out of that, I'm sure, very quickly. He also has a pretty good history of developing and dealing with good quarterbacks and developing an offense that can really produce. Robert Kraft has seen that for over 2 decades, and I'm sure wants to see it very soon. Again, at least positive developments, and it's something a little eye-opening that Mike Vrabel is completely in. Robert Kraft is happy with where the team's at. Now, what can Josh McDaniels do once Elliott Wolf, the rest of the front office, decides to start making some moves? And could that be Deebo Samuel and others? We've done it. We've gotten through the Super Bowl. We're through 2024, even though it's 2025. And we're on the 2025 season. The new league year does not start until March 12th, but that means we have a month-long runway to get to the point of seeing what could be next for the Patriots before they actually make these new moves and announcements, and a lot of different things can happen. So be sure to stick with us here on Pat's Latest. Subscribe to our channel. Get in the comments and let us know who you think the Patriots should add to get them from a 4-13 team with a first-year quarterback to a potential playoff team with a second-year quarterback. Thanks for listening. Give us a like if you like what you hear, and we'll see you next time here on Pat's Latest. Fight on, Foxborough.